Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 441 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week. Kicking things off with the owner of MTG Goldfish, Richard. How are you this fine Monday, Richard?
Good morning, Seth. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. We got some fun stuff to talk about this week. But before we get into that, we got another co-hosted, Krim. Krim, how are you today? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm excited, especially for things that are coming to Arena.
Well, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of our big topics for today is actually the new anthologies. Wizards is releasing a Historic and an Explorer Anthologies. They're not fully spoiled yet, but a lot of them have been spoiled so far, so we wanted to hit on those, the new cards that are coming to Magic Arena for the first time ever. Also going to talk a little bit more about Lord of the Rings. I want to talk about cards that have impressed or flopped, and also the One Ring continues to become even more of a dominant force in Modern, so we want to hit on that. We want to talk a little bit about cards that could maybe be safe to reprint. Krim brought up a specific classic card from the past, wondering if maybe it would be okay these days. So we're going to hit on that and maybe some Magic rules stuff before answering your Fishmail. So that's the overview for today. Before we get into it, though, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit, and Card Conduit's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. If you ever get tired of all the hassles that go into buy listing your cards, Card Conduit lets you skip them. You can use their curated service to send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more, and pay just a 5% service fee. And if you want to do a bit of work, you can use their sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. And either way, you're going to get a detailed report with the results and a fast payment once the order is processed. And right now, you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/mtggoldfish. Card Conduit, they are the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So let's talk some Magic, and let's start with, I think, the biggest topic of the week: Historic Anthology 7 and Explorer Anthology number 3. So they're both releasing at the same time. Altogether, it's going to be 50 new cards added to Arena for these formats. We have most of them. I think we have 20 out of each set now, or something close to that. There's a few that are going to be spoiled later today. Richard, we got the list. I don't think we should do full spoilers. I'm curious, though. I guess the big question is, what sticks out on this list? There's been some... I think this happens every time an anthology releases. There's a lot of complaints where people are like, these cards don't do anything. They're not actually going to show up in Historic. They're not going to show up in Explorer. And then some good cards come out. There's some stuff focused on Historic Brawl. What are your overall takeaway from this huge list of new cards coming to Arena?
All right. I should just give you the list. It's not that many cards.
Okay.
So Explorer Anthology 3. Okay, so this goes directly into Explorer, bringing us closer to Pioneer. Deathrite Shaman, Eidolon of Blossoms, Psych Rift, Chord of Calling, Xenagos, God of Revels, Thespian Stage, World Spine Worm, Shrapnel Blast, Abbot of Carol Keep, Voice of Resurgence, Smoldering Marsh, Sunken Hollow, Canopy Vista, Cinderglade. So presumably the last Prairie Stream is there. And then Historic Anthology 7, Tooth and Nail, Echoing Decay, Acidic Slime, Worn Power Stone, Bloodbraid Elf, Wild Nicodle, Tribal Flames, Vendelion Click, Mortar Pod, Sword of Fire and Ice, Primeval Titan, Sun Titan, Frost Titan, Infernal Titan, Grave Titan, and then Waterlogged Grove, Firely Islet, Sunbathed Canyon, and then presumably the rest of that cycle, Silent Clearing and Nurturing Peatland.
So, Krim.
There's some cards I haven't heard of.
Yeah, obviously there's some janky stuff. What stands out is actually being relevant for 60 card formats, Krim, for Explorer or Historic. Is there anything in specific that you think is actually going to make an impact?
Well, let's talk about the fact that, Xenagod, World Spine Worm, right? These are in the creativity decks, right? So if that's the case, those are some of the main pieces. I think also Shrapnel Blast allows you to maybe play a little, because people do like their artifacts, their affinity, that kind of stuff. And we already got Scissors, stuff like that. So I think one of the things from Blue-Red artifacts that was missing was Shrapnel Blast. So those are cards that I think will definitely get some play, along with Voice of Resurgence. I think those are some some interesting cards, but is this just is this just like there? It still feels like there's 10 more cards, right? 10 more to be revealed.
I believe so. Yeah.
10
Okay.
for Explorer Anthology and 5 for Historic Anthologies.
Okay, so I don't know why they brought Cyclonic Rift. That's definitely like a not popular
it's OP
card.
in Commander, Krim.
I mean,
Oh yeah,
that's-
you're right. You're right. It's very good in Commander. You're right.
I think reading this list, I think Wizards has finally realized that Historic Brawl is really popular, and a lot of what this list is trying to do is bring new cards to Historic Brawl. There are cards for 60 card formats, but for me, like Cyclonic Rift, Tooth and Nail, Acidic Slime, Worn Power Stone, even Mortipod to some extent, those are cards, Sword of Fire and Ice even, those are cards that I think are really more focused on being good in Historic Brawl than in 60 card formats. You can even argue that about the Titans at this point. I think at this point, Sun Titan and Grave Titan and Primeval Titan, they see way more play in Commander, right? The ones that aren't banned at least, than they do in 60 card formats. So I read this as a pretty big list of Historic Brawl cards with a few like 60 card cards thrown in. I think you hit on some of the big ones like Xenagos and Worldspine Worm, although kind of hilariously, you can see that it takes Wizards a little while to actually make these because that was like the hotness and creativity like this winter. Like it won the Pro Tour. It was Reed Duke, right? That won the Pro Tour, or Nathan Sauer, whoever. Like, but anyway, the Pro Tour was won by this deck. But the most recent creativity decks in Pioneer have actually like shied away from that win con, and now they're like Torrential Gearhulk based or Atraxa based. So it's a little funny that it's like the pieces for the third best creativity deck are finally coming to Arena, but they're not really the hotness in the current meta. What do you think about Deathrite? Is that relevant? The other thing that stood out to me is we're getting a lot of Boomer Jund pieces. Like now that we have Deathrite Shaman, now that we have Bloodbraid Elf, we essentially have 2015 Modern Jund minus like Dark Confidant on Arena. What do you think of this, Richard? You're the Jund master. Can these cards actually do something on Arena?
Would you like a 1/2 that doesn't tap for mana? Then you can play Deathrite Shaman without fetches. Like, what's this gonna do? And do you want a irrelevant 3/2 haste that cascades you into randomness?
Yo, hey,
these are not good cards in 2023. I'd rather actually just jam like a Titan tribal deck and try to resolve Grave Titan and Primeval Titans, because when you do, that might actually do work. But I think Wizards is trying to appeal to nostalgia, right? Like they just get like old classics to hopefully rope people into downloading Arena and like getting online, right? Like,
yeah,
like
I mean,
why was that like Deathrite Shaman? Like everyone knows Deathrite Shaman needs fetches, so like this is like a useless card in a non-fetch format. It's got to be the nostalgia, right? What else could it be?
Bloodbraid is kind of good though, right? I think Bloodbraid's like genuinely good.
3/2 body do any work in 2023?
I don't know. I mean, like you get to Bloodbraid into like a Crucius or something broken like that. Which by the way, with like all of this, I have a whole separate thing at the end of this segment that I gotta ask you all about. But like, yeah, like this Crucius already is sitting right there, so you've got Bloodbraid Elf that could go right into that. There's a lot of good stuff that Christmas Land Jund could get into here. So I don't know. I mean,
I'm also hyped for it with just land destruction. Like that was the first thing I thought of. Is I know you played land destruction recently, but like cascading into Stone Rain, like that's actually kind of sweet. I don't know if it'll be good, but
what was like the Dark Dwellers boom bust thing? Like,
yeah.
Can you do any shenanigans like that? You can cascade into Ancestral Visions?
The problem is none of those cards are on Arena. None of the no mana value sorceries are on Arena at this point. So we don't have the stuff to cascade into, but you can do those shenanigans if those cards existed. I almost wonder if Bloodbraid's supposed to be domain support. Like there is a modern domain deck that sometimes plays it. You cascade into like the Territorial Kavu. It sometimes play Wild Nicodle, which is another
which
like
you have
super boomery card that they added to Arena for the first time. So maybe that's the direction they're going. What do you think about Click Crib? Like, is this just another nostalgia card that like was good a decade ago but isn't good anymore? Or like, will it be different on Arena? Is Historic different so we might actually have this card see play? Because it's basically fallen away in Modern at this point.
It is definitely something that like we'll see. Modern now, I think, is abysmal, but like where it was right? That's where Historic feels like it is right now. Historic feels like 2016, 2015 Modern with a few like digital cards, right? And I think you could totally play Vendilion Click there. With Charbelcher running around, if they go and tutor for it or doing something like that, you could do it in their upkeep, yada, 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 right? Like, or their draw step. You do the old click trick, yeah?
Boomer talk. Upkeep,
Yo.
click you.
Yo,
Whoa.
like draw step click.
The
dude.
draw step click, yeah, the draw step
Classic.
click. Oh boy.
I think that Vendilion Click could totally work, dude. Like, you already
thinks
have...
Bitter Blossom works in 2020.
That's what I was
Should
gonna
we really
say.
take this seriously?
Look, if Yuta Takahashi can live the dream, I want to live it with him, all right? So the point is, I actually even think you could go as far as just literally, I know it's unlikely, right? There's 5 cards left, but like there's a few cards I think that could make this list. Would it be weird if they also just added fairies? Like Bitter Blossom, Spell Stutter Sprite, which I don't know how they missed on Arena because technically the Jumpstart Spell Stutter Sprite exists. Somehow Arena didn't get the Jumpstart with that one in it. That was the only Jumpstart that was missed. And yeah, like sure, throw in Mistbind Click as well because otherwise everything else is on Arena.
I think what's that commander fairy? Like the commander that like shoots people and makes a bunch of fairies. Una?
Oh,
Una?
Una, yeah.
I think
Yeah,
you're
no,
more
that-
likely
that-
to get that.
That's-
I think
that's
you're more
not-
likely to get like random commander cards that may be fairies.
Why? Wait.
I would
Fairies
be
could
hyped for
exist.
Bitter Blossom. I don't think fairies, like, I hate to break it to you, Krim, but fairies are like boomer rogues. Like the old rogues are just everything fairies are, but like a decade later with all the power creep and way better. They're just like bad rogues, but
No,
I
that's
mean,
not
fairies are
true.
rogues.
That's
Fairy
not
rogues.
true, okay? Because okay, what was it like a few years ago? Maybe it was a little bit longer than a few years ago. Yuta Takahashi had a modern fairies list, right? And he won a whole a pro tour with it. That was awesome. I don't know. I think Bitter Blossom is still just a good card, but as you know, and if they're going for nostalgia, what's more nostalgic than having Spell Stutter Sprite, Mistbind Click? You already have Vendilion Click here.
ooh.
Why not?
You want full on like Lorwyn era standard fairies, like just put
Yeah.
the deck into historic.
That's
would be-
all we need.
Oh,
That's
I would be
I mean,
behind
you don't
Bitter
need.
Blossom. I would like
Yeah,
that.
Bitter.
I would
and
play that
Click.
in tokens.
Or
Like that
not-
would
not
excite me. I'm not excited about fairies, but I would play. We got Lingering Souls now. Some white
Yeah.
black tokens. Speaking of like
We have
bad
Yeah.
modern
The
decks
Lord of
from
the Rings
a
thing
decade
with the
ago.
masses every time
Hold
we
on,
attack.
hold
It's
on,
basically
hold
Bitter
on.
Blossom.
I gotta look this up now because which one was it where he queued for the world championship with it?
Is it? I wonder if this was just
It
one
was-
of Krim's fevered dreams, or he
No,
just like
it
he has these wonderful dreams about fairies winning
No.
tournaments, and everyone's like, Krim.
It was like GP Atlanta.
It's like one of those things where he's like, it
2000
happened 2 years ago, but in
If it's-
reality, it was like 18 years
If
ago.
it's a GP, it was a while ago because we
It
haven't
was
had
5
GP.
years ago. Okay.
Okay.
It was 5 years ago. He did.
was that the pre-Modern Horizons time?
I mean,
The
yes.
before
This was
before
before
times.
Monkey.
Yeah,
this
but
is before times.
this is
before
BM
Monkey.
before Monkey. Yeah. I mean, look, I think that you could totally throw Spell Stutter Sprite and Bitter Blossom. We already have Snapcaster. We're already close to that era of like, if we can't get full Lorwyn, we can get that at least the fairies list that like, Yuta Takahashi had, right? Like,
I mean,
and I think that'd be a really, really fun list to play.
I
on
agree with
top-
Krim in a weird way. Like, why not just throw these random? Like, why is Historic Anthologies 25 cards? It should be like 100, and just throw like these random cards that probably no one cares about, but there's a Krim out there that really cares about it and will build a deck about it. Like, the cards are
Right.
made, the art is made. It's
Yeah.
free. You just gotta, put it on, right? So,
Or like
they should be adding these random journal cards to Historic. Like, why
I-
not? And these anthologies should be big.
I would agree. The more the better, or just like do them more often. Like keep them the same size, but have an anthology a month or something. Just have this constant flow of like, here's a card, and it has the other upside that it might never happen, but it does move us towards Modern eventually, or Legacy eventually, or Commander, something more like Commander eventually. So I think there's like no downside to adding these cards. What about the Titans. So, like, obviously, they spent a big chunk of this anthology. Like, 5 of the 25 cards is the Titan cycle. Is there any relevance here for 60-card formats, Krim? Like, can we do anything with these cards? Or are they just like, oh, put them in your Brawl deck, they're nostalgic and whatever. They were iconic a decade ago.
This is definitely a nostalgia.
Amulet?
No, there's no amulet because
No
there
Lilac,
was
cards. There's
no
5 more
Valakut,
cards, right?
no Field of Ruin, no
Oh,
Amiria.
God. Please do not let that deck hit
That's
historic.
5 more cards instead of Crim's fairy package. We could put the,
No,
the Titan
no.
amulet package. in.
Okay, I could see people maybe reanimating Grave Titan or maybe like something like that. I don't even know. Does Primeval Titan have anything that helps it pop off?
Do you think
historic?
Do you think it'd show up in mono green, like the Nykthos devotion decks? It does find Nykthos, and it is big.
It does.
But there's no
You know-
no Valakut combos or Field of Ruin combos for it.
Then
Are
yeah,
there hasty double striking lands available?
No, I don't think
I don't think
so.
so. And there's no
Okay,
amulet to
Slayer
untap
Strong.
them anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that the one that might get played is probably, well, okay, week 1, Grave Titan, probably, along with Primeval Titan. I think these are like nostalgic ones at least, and they were powerful 1 point. Standard, obviously, Grave Titan, didn't die to Doomblade, so that was literally the best Titan at the time. However, I think that people will very quickly find that Grave Titan is a sweet commander card in the current year. Primeval Titan is one that I think there's a lot of time for it to get broken if it isn't now. It's the only Titan that's still played. And the other 3 is just like cute because they're, we got to finish out the cycle. But let's be honest, ain't nobody playing Frost Titan. All right. Like, and no.
Azorius. Sun Titan control, baby.
Keep the
Why
land
in
tap
the
down.
world?
Can we get there?
Why in the world would you play like an Inferno or
The same reason we would play Bitter Blossom as
Hey,
Cutters, right?
Hey, you leave. Okay, the slander on the my fair is unacceptable. Bitter Blossom is still good. All right, it's still good.
Sun Titan bring back Oblivion Ring. It'd be so
You
good.
could Sun Titan bring back Bitter Blossom,
Oh yeah, that's a thing too.
right?
I mean,
but
Sun Titan's not a bad card, right? Out of all the Titans, it seems like fringe play still, right? Like a little bit in 60-card
I think it's the most playable outside of Primetime.
Yeah, I would say.
wait.
What I would
what
put
deck
is
is playing
number.
it.
Like
I
a
don't
myriad
know.
decks played in Modern.
And,
Like, not that
like-
they're top tier, but we see a myriad pop up with 5-0s now and then playing Sun Titans. Like, getting back Ghost
myriad?
Quarters and stuff. Yeah.
Like the ones that are also using like Leon and Arbiter.
No. More like
No.
going bigger.
Control.
More like Esper Sentinel,
Yeah.
Stoneforge, bunch of Ghost Quarters, Amiria.
Oh,
They're not like top
Those-
tier, but they occasionally 5-0.
sure. Okay, yeah, sure. Let's go
I mean,
with that one.
Frost
But
Titan
Frost
sees 0
Titan is-
play. Inferno Titan sees 0 play. Grave Titan sees, like, Grave Titan might see more legacy play, like Nick Fit sometimes. Gotta get him in legacy, but.
I think actually, so I think it's going to be Primeval Titan first,
Yep.
and then Sun Titan, or not Sun Titan, Inferno Titan.
Ooh. I would have
Because-
Primeval Sun Inferno.
Well,
Frost
the
at the
reason
bottom.
well, Frost will just like.
Frost
Always
never stopped
be at the
playing
bottom.
standard.
Yeah.
Hey,
Like,
no,
barely.
it did. It
Frost
did.
was the
It
answer
did.
to the other Titans, right? You just tap down your
Yeah.
opponent's like Grave
It
Titan or
was.
Inferno Titan. It was like
It
the,
was
like
the
a
tech
tech
card.
Yeah, and it was also hard to kill because of that cost of 2, but not anymore. So I think Inferno Titan, because we just talked a little bit about it, right? Like Bloodbraid Elf is a thing, and you want to see if maybe land destruction. This is
Yeah.
going to be the top end there. There's lots of Gruul decks running around. Why wouldn't it want to cheat out a Sun Titan? I think Sun Titan is the second most playable
Inferno
Titan here.
Inferno,
I'm pretty sure
yeah.
Inferno
we have like
Titan.
5 dragons better than Inferno Titan by now.
Red
I mean-
Titan.
Inferno's still a pretty fast clock. Like, comes
Yeah.
down, hits for 3, attacks hit for 3. It's a 6/6. I could see, like, there was a time not that long ago when people were playing it in Modern. We don't have the, like, Arbor Elf Utopia Sprawl ramp shenanigans in Historic yet, so maybe it'll be a little
But
slower.
we already have all the ramp you could ask for, right? And like there are ramp decks. They do exist.
Yeah.
That using like the the troll, maybe not the troll, but the land, the Will-O-Wisp Haven or Wolf Haven, whatever.
Wolf, yeah.
Like Yeah, like those cards, the ramp package is there, and this is now just a good finisher, right? I think some of these Titans, specifically the ones in green and red, will be pretty popular.
I think,
however,
oh, go ahead, Grim.
Well, no. I do not doubt. I do not believe Sun Titan, the White Titan, will get played. Maybe it might get played.
The answer is none of these will get played. We can argue about which tier 4 deck it randomly pops up in.
But I think for me, the most impactful cards might be the Horizon lands. Like, those actually legitimately see a lot of play in older formats.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just being able to sack him to draw a card. I imagine, like, Is It Wizards, for example, one of the better decks in Historic? Like, Fiery Islet seems like a really easy, like, 2 of, 3 of in that deck. So I feel like that's a big one. They have land, like, sacrifice synergies if you have ways to, like, win Grayson back from the graveyard or whatever, if you're doing Gitrog stuff. And they just see a lot of play. Like, even just aggro decks, like Sunbaked Canyon, the Boros one, is a staple 4 of in modern burn decks. So if you're playing anything like that, just having a land that you can sack to get another card is really nice flood protection. On the other hand, the Explorer ones are so bad to the point where, like, I guess I'm okay with it because I want everything on Arena eventually, but does a Battle for Zendikar cycle see play anywhere? Hasn't this just been power crept out of 60 card formats because we have better lands now? It's been a long time since I've seen a Smoldering Marsh or a Cinderglade actually show up anywhere.
Yeah, like, I don't know. That took up 5 slots.
Yeah.
That took up 5 slots.
I was hoping they'd bump it to uncommon, like the Snarls, because then they'd be good budget lands if you could get them with uncommon wild cards, but they didn't do it this time.
I mean, like, I don't know what's going on in the Explorer list. This is like, none of these are on the checklist of things that people play, right? Like, let's be very real here. I like, again, Shrapnel Blast maybe tier 3, tier 2.5.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably the closest thing, and then the old, as you had mentioned,
right?
Court of Calling's good. Like, that shows up sometimes.
Where's
Xenagos World Spine Worm. Abbott, I don't know what they're doing. Eidolon, like, that's been kind of power crept by other Enchantress effects. Voice might have some relevance. Like, that's a card that still, elemental synergies, like, still shows up. Thespian Stage is pretty funny. Like, it's going to do nothing right now. The one thing they do with these anthologies, it's so funny, is they print like one half of a combo, but not the other half. Like, Thespian Stage is part of the Lotus Field deck in Pioneer, but we still have the Delve cards. So without the Delve cards and without the untap or like Hidden Stirrings effects, you just can't play the deck. So what do you think about Thespian Stage? Is that just setting the stage for like 4 anthologies from now when they finally add the rest of the pieces for Lotus Field combo?
I honestly hope they never add that combo. God, I hope they ban it before they have to add it.
It is not that fun to play against, that's for sure. I gotta ask you about one other, like, why do they put just straight up dud cards? Like, so this list, yeah, like, not all of them are super competitive in Pioneer right now. Not all of them are gonna see, you know, top tier 60 card play, but there's a couple of cards that are just like head scratchers. The biggest one for me is like Echoing Decay. Why? In what world do we possibly need one of our slots going to Echoing Decay, which even Echoing Decay, I think you mentioned this on Twitter or something, Krim, like, it's basically been power crept by BioBlight, right? Like, there's strictly better versions of this same exact card. Why would you put Echoing Decay of all things into the anthology? Am I missing something?
BioBlight is double black. Okay?
I guess it's not strictly better. That's true.
Let's get this straight. But the same reason we have duds in all of our sets, Seth. You can't have all good cards. You have bad cards.
See, that makes sense.
Water it down.
A booster set, right? Like in a booster pack. You were talking about an anthology that you do. Apparently, you haven't done in the last like 7 months, and so
have you seen the paper anthologies, like the Commander anthologies? What are those, like the spell books?
Yeah,
or
Commander
whatever, like
collection, spell books.
Sure,
yeah.
But there's duds all over the place.
No. But that's a paper philosophy. That's a paper tradition. Digitally, first off, Explorer
they'll just balance Echoing Decay after they put it online, and they'll turn it into BioBlight.
Okay, then sure. But like otherwise, Explorer Anthology, this isn't getting us anywhere closer to Pioneer, right? Like maybe 2 cards on here actually. So
yeah, there might be like 4.
Do you guys actually want to play Explorer though? Because I feel Wizards has thrown it aside. Like, with Lord of the Rings going to Historic, and you can bet, like, new premier products will go directly to Historic on Arena, and Historic is the only place you can play them, wouldn't your other format be Historic versus Explorer / Pioneer at this point?
So I think the problem is, like, in some ways, yes, but the big problem is there's a big group of players who just do not want to play with alchemy cards. So I think you still need to support Explorer for that group of players. Like, if you are fine with alchemy stuff, then Historic is, I think, probably a more enjoyable second format, like if you're someone who's cool with the alchemy cards. But there are people who just straight up, if there's alchemy cards, I will not play it. And there's also people who want to practice for paper, which is the other like upside, I think, of having Pioneer. Like, it's a supported Pro Tour tournament paper format. So yes, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I think Explorer support is still important for those reasons.
Also, because they said they were working towards Pioneer, and that would be in the next, what they said it'd be 5 years,
several years or something. Yeah,
and I laughed my ass off when they said that, because they said 5 years. I'm like, why would it take that long? Well, when you're busy putting Abbot of Carroll Keep in, I guess dude, you know what?
They're
5 is a bit ambitious.
Cram session the day before, like 4 years. 60 days, they're gonna release like 500 cards. Like, here we go.
You know programming better than me, Richard. Is there some reason that Delve is uniquely hard for Arena? Because the biggest, for the last several anthologies, the most glaring omission is Treasure Cruise Dig Through Time, or any Delve cards. We don't have any Delve cards, period, on Arena right now. Am I missing? Like, are they just not adding them on because they're overpowered or don't want to, or are they like too hard or tricky
what
or something?
Incompetence is happening, right? But the problem is, like, you redesigned this from the ground up. Like, you made Magic Arena fully knowing that we release all these cards and the mechanics look like this, right? And we knew what Delve looked like when the set, or when Arena was made. So these cards should like take like an intern should be able to whip them up in their free time, and then you have to test it, right? So I don't know why it's taking them forever. If tomorrow they release like some weird paper thing where cards are 5-sided and you have to like do a boxing match in between, then you're like, okay, we never foresaw this, right? This is totally weird. It doesn't fit our model. It's weird, right? But these are mechanics we knew about. These are very normal mechanics dealing with graveyards and just reducing mana costs and things like that. It should work. So it's either a strategy thing or they just botched it, right? Like they took shortcuts to get this thing out, and then now they're paying for it. But we're on like the 6th iteration of Magic the Gathering or something, like digital clients. You'd figure out like they learned how to do this by now, right? Like they should have learned everything from Magic Online, from Duel of the Planeswalkers, etc., to be able to make cards very quickly. Because you know what? That's all they're doing. They're just making cards all the time and releasing them, right?
Especially with reprints, right? Where you know the cards exist, you have the art, you have the text. Like, it's not like you even have to come up with a new card. Like, all you got to do is get onto Arena. So yeah, I thought one of the upsides when they first announced Arena, like 5 years ago now or whatever it was, I thought one of the selling points was this is going to make it way easier for us to add cards. Like, because we're on Unity or whatever the client is, like, going to be a breeze, super easy. But in practice, it doesn't seem like it's actually worked out that way, where it's as easy as we think. Although, what do I know? Every once in a while, we fire up Momir for like a throwaway one-day event, and there's like 40 new cards that just appear in Momir.
It's strategic, right? Because they can whip out an alchemy set like tomorrow if they want, with all these weird mechanics and like the weird digital mechanics, and also like the background stuff. Like they can whip it out whatever they want. So yeah, my guess is this is just a decision. Like,
speaking of whipping it out whenever they want, I guess. Don't worry, this isn't going there. Like, I'm talking about, how about whipping out some nerfing on the digital cards that they make? Like as someone who enjoys Historic a lot, and as a format that they are putting cards into, they should, like, they're making digital cards, and the fact that they do it every set or something like that, yet they don't roll out balances at all. On rebalances on any way, shape, or form. Like, that's like, imagine if Hearthstone did like their rebalances every year on cards. Like, what? I would have been flipping my patties. It's absurd.
It's absurd. It is like you're so right, Crib. Like, It blows my mind. They're getting all the downside and all the criticism from the people that don't like the digital only cards. They get all the complaints and they're not taking advantage of it. They should be rebalancing like every month. Look at Hearthstone. Like I log on Hearthstone and do an arena run every once in a while, and I'll fire it up and there'll be this huge list of like the broken cards that are suddenly just rebalanced. And it happens constantly. Like, why are we not doing this on Arena? Like, sure, print your Crucius. If you want to print these Buzzer, Jaxus, whatever the Gruul one is, like, print the busted cards, but then just like rebalance them. Why are we still dealing with Crucius like 9 months later? Has it been now? It's at least 6 months later. Like, it really is like so mismanaged. It's really wild.
Like, I feel like it's just like they release the cards, they close out, and they're like, well, I'm good.
You know what I think I know
ahead.
what it is, actually. I think what happened is, I think Wizards initially wanted to rebalance cards like Hearthstone, and then everyone freaked out really hard about them not reimbursing. They don't want to reimburse people. Everyone freaked out really hard about them not reimbursing for bannings. And if you look at for the last year or so, rebalancings are almost always just random lower rarity cards getting a little bit more powerful. They don't touch higher rarity cards. They don't nerf like stuff. They're very, very stingy on that. I think that they took the feedback from people like, we don't want our decks rebalanced without getting refunded. And their solution to that was, well, we'll just not rebalance cards. Like, if you're going to complain about this, we don't want a refund or anything. So we're just not going to rebalance higher rarity cards. And we'll just like tweak commons to make them a little better, basically. That's my perception of what they're doing.
So far, yeah, like all they've done is just that they've made cards that were common or uncommon a lot more powerful. Obviously, Symmetry Sage, like that card is busted.
Yeah.
Like maybe we should rebalance that one drop. You know, maybe we should rebalance a lot of things. Like they just aren't focusing on any of the digital upsides. So I don't know why this is. It's so upsetting because it's like.
Wizards, dude, like you screwing the pooch digital upside. What?
Dude, like they do all this talk and they go into the world of digital and they do none of the advantages of digital.
But
they do none of it.
Esport.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, come on.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like it's kind of ridiculous that they don't manage the format. Have you? Yeah, I assume you've been playing Historic since Lord of the Rings came out. I've been playing a lot of Historic too, and there are like matchups that I really dislike that mostly involve those cards we're talking about that I think should be rebalanced, like the Crucius matchup, the Wizards matchup. Like those decks I feel like are just like pretty overtuned, and also Monogreen is kind of just as annoying in Historic as it is in Pioneer. But overall, I really enjoy the format, and I think if they did what you're saying and actively managed it, where we are getting actual meaningful nerfs and buffs like monthly or whatever, Historic could be a really good format, even despite the perceived by some downside of having the digital only cards. Like, even with that being a negative for some people, I think Historic could still be a really good and thriving format if Wizards actually wanted to manage it actively.
Yeah, fully. And like that's just why like I don't understand. Like they just put these things in Historic. You have a whole anthology. So my question to move before we move on is just, I guess, do you think they'll actually do any rebalances now that they've actually put a Historic anthology onto Arena?
I mean, I bet we'll... I don't know. What's a deck that was like kind of fun and limited a couple sets ago? I'm sure those commons will like drop a mana or get an extra toughness, but
Dungeons will get another buff. Got it.
I mean, I do think they're going to do something with Crucius eventually. Like, I think the outcry is going to become loud enough that eventually they're going to have to do that, but I don't know. For me, they've just not done much for so long that it's hard for me to expect big changes. Do you think it's going to be different because of the anthology, Krim? Like, do you think this spurs them to action?
I think because they're like, I feel like they're actually paying attention to the format right now because there's a drop, right? And so it's essentially, oh, well, we're dropping something new. Let's take a look at some things that are going on in the numbers. So,
although
like,
they just dropped Lord of the Rings, and that didn't lead to rebalancing, and that's like mostly a Historic set.
I guess that's fair, but this is specifically just Historic anthologies, right? It has it in the name. I don't know. I mean, I'm just, maybe it's wishful thinking because I just want something to happen there. And lastly, okay. So that was the one thing I had to throw in there, but I had one more little bit of a question for y'all. And that's to do with standard.
Okay.
And it has to do with Historic Anthology as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a few cards left. But like this spurred from a little bit of a thought process I had, and I'm like, Jace the Mind Sculptor. Y'all remember that guy? That was like the face of Magic. That was like the boogeyman, right? For like a solid amount of years. The sky was falling when he got unbanned in Modern, and now he went from All-Star to like he went from All-Star to like a pet card. He is now budget One Ring, right? Do you think Jace the Mind Sculptor could fit into Historic Anthology? And one farther, what do you think of him in Standard?
Ooh. Oh, that is a good question. So, Historic Anthology, sure, fine. I think it would. I actually think that Jace would be fine in Historic. Like, the aggro decks are so good in Historic, and the combo decks are so good in Historic. I think you could argue that Control could actually use a little boost, as much as I hate to say that. So I think Historic, I would be fine with Jace. I'm actually surprised they haven't done it yet. On the other hand,
it's just bad One Ring though. Like,
yeah, it really
die
is.
If I tap out for him.
Standard though, you can't put it in Standard, can you? I feel like Jace would still. I don't know. I guess I thought Jace would break Modern, or I was scared that it was, and then ended up being fine.
Yeah.
What do you think, Reggie? Is Standard so powerful it could actually just be fine with Jace? I can't wrap my head around that idea.
Think of where we were, by the way.
In the same way Shieldred is fine. Like, it's fine, but it's like miserable, right? You plop a Jace, did you have removal right here or interaction with Jace right here? If not, you probably lost the game, right? You can't let them untap with Jace for 2 turns, it's over. But then it's not actually over because the game keeps going and dragging on. So it's like Shieldred, right? Like, it's 2023 Magic. You need to answer it right then and there. Otherwise, you lose. Except Shieldred actually kills you. Jace sits there, and if their win con is they ult Jace, then my God, help us all, right? So, I don't know. I don't want to see Jace in Standard. I mean, without fetches, he's not as strong, right?
Richard,
with all our ETB creatures, the bounce is not as strong.
These are boomer fears, dude. Like. What, look at Liliana.
You just even if you brainstorm without doing anything, that's still like it draws a card, right? And it bounces, right? So
for 4 mana.
Snowballs.
Right.
I don't know.
It has low loyalty count. It's nowhere near what the Wandering Emperor does. It doesn't like save you from things, right? Like there's so many things that do stuff on ETB. Soldiers don't care. Like, you know what I mean? These are like all the aggro decks don't care. As always, right? Jace never mattered against the aggro decks. The mid-range matchups, right? The Esper control matchups, right? Like, dude, I don't see how, like, example, like, Tenacious Underdog can just literally get blitzed and then swing in and kill your Jace, pretty much, if you brainstorm. I mean, there's a lot of interaction.
I mean,
Jace
probably okay power level wise, but I don't know. I thought Meat Hook was fine power level wise. Like, did we have fun with that thing, right? Like,
no, Meat Hook was definitely not power level wise. Okay, are you kidding me? That Meat Hook was like a power crept board wipe.
I mean, they removed it, and we still had the same problems, and I don't know that anything changed, but
that's because black is stacked, right? You have Shieldred, you had Invoke, you had everything there. But yeah, like,
I mean, there is a world where Jace is unbanned, and you don't even play Jace, even if you're in the Jace colors, because you're like, what's the point, right? So for that reason, I don't think Jace is too OP, but I don't know that it promotes the play pattern.
Oh, get out of here. Get out of here. Like, I agree, though. I do actually think that, like, current Jace, the one with a bunch of Ethernet cables, the mill one, one, even though I don't care if he's a villain or whatever, like, you can snap your fingers and you can find a way to make Jace the Mind Sculptor come back, right? It's story-wise. But the point here is I think that card's actually better at winning the game than Jace is. And better, like, because that one, a lot of people mill themselves in this format. These Atraxa decks mill themselves super hard, and I've told you tons of times, the amount of games in Standard where I do nothing but just cast Jace and -5 and win is, like, insane. Like, I literally do nothing but just do that. And
but, I mean,
so
isn't Traumatize or, like, some random mill spell, like, busted that? Like, if it's just mill 15 for 5 mana or 4 mana, like...
but it's not just that, right? Because it's a 3-mana planeswalker that can +1 to blank something, at least attacks wise. It can draw you cards like these. It feeds real nicely into the next Jace, right? Because if you get to that 20 cards, you draw 3 cards. I think that card and its versatility at its on the curve makes it real nice. But Jace perfected mine. Everybody poo-pooed it. I know I poo-pooed it at first, but then I learned. I swiftly learned after playing with it in early access weekend. So, and now I do love that it's become like a win condition in Standard. And on top of that, like that's where I wonder, like, okay, so let's say Jace gets reprinted into Standard, right? Mind Sculptor. What does it replace? Do you think that honestly you would drop Perfected Mind for Mind Sculptor?
Yes. There is. I don't think there's any. Are we even having this conversation that we should not be playing? We should be playing Jace the Perfected Mind over Jace the Mind Sculptor? I can't believe that could possibly be true. No,
I know it sounds weird.
It does.
But
yes.
this is the timeline where I think that's real, because Jace the Mind Sculptor doesn't have any way to really like efficiently shuffle its library. And again, if you're just paying 4 mana for an unsummon, that's more often than not going to be good enough. That is not going to be good enough.
It's unsummoned, so you untap with Jace, and then you freely brainstorm the rest of the game, right?
But like Archangel of Wrath,
does, right?
Then you have Topiary Stomper, you have the Naya ramp decks that just don't care. Like, what are you going to do, unsummon an Atali? That's a terrible idea.
I mean,
right?
Like, seal them so they don't find Atali would be hopefully what you do.
I mean, maybe. But like, then you have like Herd Migration, which is going to spawn a ton of like bodies. Like, and these ramp decks are casting these big spells like constantly as haymakers. Mono black midrange, like they've got so many efficient threats between Evolved Sleepers, Tenacious Corn Dogs, all of those Trespassers, like which will have Ward. Like I'm sorry, I just think that a lot of the creatures are so much better than where Jace the Mind Sculptor was.
But you take whatever deck and then you slot in like 3 Jaces. So you take Rakdos and then you slot in 3 Jaces. Does it get better? Does it get worse? Does it look the same? And I think it looks somewhere the same and then other decks will look better. And then I don't know what you accomplish, right? Because Jace will have bad matchups. So obviously in his bad matchups, he'll just die and do nothing. But then in the grind fest matchups, he just grinds hard.
Sure,
and then he snowballs out of control, right?
But that's
at least Shuldred. You can actually almost recover from Shuldred if you're not an aggro deck. But like Jace, there's no coming back from, right?
There's so many answers to Jace, though. I mean, we have
but
Shield.
You need to have him. It's like the One Ring, right? Like you have to have it right there when it comes down. If you don't, then you're kind of screwed.
Sure, if
right?
we're in a top deck war and then you draw Jace, you Fate Seal me. Right? Like, yeah, there's a chance, you're at a high percentage of winning. But like, is that not just any of these other finishers?
But what do we add to the format? What do we add to the format by adding Jace? We take the grindiest standard of all time and make it grindier? Like, what are we doing with Jace here?
What did we add with Liliana of the Veil?
Nothing. She's not played.
She is played.
Oh, did she make a comeback?
She's in mono black. Mid-range, and she's in Dimir mid-range. I mean, she's in Orzhov, like, she's a splash in Orzhov control every now and then, but, like, mostly Dimir mid-range and Mono Black mid-range. I don't think, like, Lily is nuts, if you think about it. This is a modern power level card in Standard, right? Was a modern level power card, but, yeah, like, that was pushed into Standard, right? And I think more often than not, it was just because it's Liliana of the Veil.
So I think this is, in some level, kind of like a pointless conversation, because I think even if Jace was safe for Standard, I don't think there's any chance Wizards ever reprints it in Standard. I think after, like, just, like, the banning and the reaction, like, I don't think they could get away with it, even if they thought it would safe. It's like Oka. Like, even if we thought it was going to be safe.
It's a pack
like
seller.
Liliana, even if Jace sucked, right? Even if Jace sucked, you would see so much Jace in the metagame. Because, like, people are going to force it. People have nostalgia. You can have, like, whatever new, finish, whatever printing thing they have, like, whatever frame, whatever thing for Jace. It will be hot, even if he sucks, right? And if he's good, then he'll be, like, super popping off because people will find any reason to play Jace. So that's a moneymaker. I could see them putting it in Standard.
Yeah, like, it's I think it's totally a possible realm because Liliana was the moneymaker of that set, right?
Like all they need to do is make the Blood Raid, like, of 2023. Right?
I mean,
like, make a 4-mana, really aggressive, hasty value creature, and that will keep Jace out of the format, right? Because you can't just, like, turn 4, plop a Jace down and do nothing. And then they can print Jace and then sell all the packs they want. Make a secret layer to go with it, you know, whatever, right? Like, I can see them doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a questing beast or something would be good against Jace if that existed. I'm still skeptical. I think out of
Tyrant.
all of us, I'm
Thrun.
I don't know if people like. It's just not a fun card to play against.
Yeah,
like
that's why
the
I don't
win
like the
condition
play
of like
patterns,
fate steal, you rob an empty land. Like it's just like. It's not especially enjoyable for something to be in the most popular format.
That is peak 60 card 1v1 for like Magic right there. That is peak because it is truly in 1v1 there's a finite amount of fun. One person needs to have it. One person needs to have it. I'm just saying.
Well, let us know in the comments. Do you think I'm definitely like fine in Historic? I don't think Jace would be a problem there. I actually think it should show up in Anthology. Very skeptical of Standard though. So let us know in the comments what you think. Is it actually possible that Crim's right and Jace would be safe in Standard? I guess it has been a long time and there's been a lot of power creep. But let's hit up a couple other topics before we run out of time here today. I have a couple of quick questions. I want to mention first. The One Ring continues to snowball, not just on the battlefield, but our latest challenges. I feel like we've checked in on this every week. Our latest challenges, the One Ring, the literal most played card in the challenges, 50% of decks playing the One Ring now. Where do we go from here? Like, are you on the it's getting banned in August train yet, or are we still on the like? Give the meta time to adjust to train at this point. We know the ban window's a little less than a month from now, August 8th, I want to say. Where are we at with the One Ring? Is its play percentage continues to increase?
Way too early. I've been teching against it. Questing Beast has been pantsing everybody. I'm not even joking. Nobody plays around the Questing Beast, and they play it. They feel safe, and then they get popped a little bit in the face, and then they lose. Like. Also, there's still Stomp. It's not like Stomp's a bad card, right? Like
Stomp actually has damage prevention on it.
It does, but you can't target. You'd have to target something else, right?
Something of your own, right? Or yourself.
Yeah.
You could target yourself if you have to, right? Like these are all things that are there. I also have been playing a lot more exiling effects when it comes to removal. Which I kind of was already doing anyways, but now I have more of a reason to do it.
Void Rand's on the downswing.
Void Rand is trending down, but it's okay. It's okay. But not in Standard. Not in Standard. It's still the truth there.
Richard, I gotta ask you. I know you put together a deck to fight the One Ring in Modern. How did that go? I never actually heard the end of this.
So I built Jund, okay? I built Jund, but we had to go deep. So we had to go Death Shadow to have an actual win con, and we play Questing Beast to Questing Beast Death Shadow people. You can knock them like 13, 14 damage easy when they play the One Ring. Great and all. 2-3. which is actually like the Jund record. I've never played Death Shadow before, so there's a little punt. It could have been a 3-2. It could have very well been a 4-1. That's the cope. Right,
but
here's the problem. The One Ring is like Mega Monkey. Okay, if you have the answer, it's not a problem. If I'm holding Questing Beast, if I'm holding a Stubborn Denial, if I'm holding an Exile Removal, GG, good, perfect, right? If I'm not, the game is over. Right? They play the One Ring, they gain protection, they untap, they're up 3 cards by now. Like your game is done. So it's like if the Monkey Free hits you, have the Fatal Push or the Lightning Bolt. But if you don't, GG. So that's the problem with the One Ring. The other problem is I'm running things like Questing Beast. This is hilarious into matchups with the One Ring. But in every other matchup, I'm like, oh my god, this Bloodbraid Elf would be better, right? Like this is
Whoa,
this is
it's
little
a 4/4
sus, right?
haster, dude. I don't know. I think you should respect the questing beast, all right?
They're like unholy heat. I'm like, all right, okay. Now they did to me what I was doing to the One Ring player. They just like upped me by 3 mana, and I have a questing beast. But okay, right? So that's a problem. But questing beast good against the fairy. You know, you can hit people, snipe the 3 fairy
good against
on the way.
Good against Jace. You got the if
I
you have questioned
dismembered
the
an
Jace
still
Archon
player.
good.
cruelty, so it couldn't block and got in there. They didn't see that line coming, but you know, I'm playing questing beast. It's not ideal. So it is early for the One Ring, but to me, it's Mega Monkey. It just makes things not fun. You answer it right there, or you lose the game. Which is, I
in
guess,
modern
2023, right?
In modern, yeah.
In modern, yeah. But in I think in historic, it's not like that. I don't think it's that
you
bad.
still win if they
snowballs
resolve the
pretty
One
hard.
Ring and untap and draw a bunch. Really?
Yeah, tons of times.
I mean,
though,
I think the other thing we have on top of this is their just new ban cadence. I think it's going to tell us a lot about how they're actually handling this. Because if the plan is really ban in August, don't ban again until next August, that might kind of like force their hand to take action quicker than they otherwise would. If there's an option to like wait another 3 months, another 6 months, and see how things develop, then I think I'm fine with that. But if it really is this August or you got to wait another year, then I think I would lean on the side of like ban it, because I have a big fear that 6 months from now I am not going to want to play modern because it's just One Ring mirrors with like the super snowball you were talking about. So
everyone plays Skullcrack, Seth. But look, there's holiday bundles to be sold, Seth. There's no way they're banning
that's
it.
True.
Right?
That's true.
There's One Rings sitting on trucks waiting to be sold and delivered to Timmy's around the world. They cannot ban it. Like a lot of the hype is like, look, this card is breaking modern, right? Like we know it's good in Commander, but look, it's breaking modern. And its price tag is really high. So as a Wizards person, I would be looking for any excuse not to ban it. And then they're going to be like, I heard Krim talked about Void Render. We should play Void Render in modern. It's good.
okay, don't play that in modern. First off, that doesn't
Wait, does Void
exile.
Render exile? Or
No,
No.
it's
It's
Okay,
good
it
in
doesn't even work
standard.
here. No. It doesn't work
It's good
here.
in standard.
What I'm curious though, what is your go-to answer for the One Ring? I know you said Questing Beast to get through the protection. What have you been playing in modern or in historic, Krim? Like, give us like a card or two that, like, if someone's struggling to beat the One Ring, put this card in your deck and it's going to help.
Bowmasters.
Punish the card.
Bowmasters.
I will say, I've run into some mono black decks in historic with like Bowmasters and Shieldred, and they do absolutely pants One Ring decks. Like, you are not beating that deck.
Like that deck is so good. Like I've been playing those cards, the Bowmaster cards and Shieldreds, and it's been hilarious pantsing people. And then of course there's just straight up control, right? Like
Just counter
that,
it.
and or like having Karn the Great Creator. Karn the Great Creator makes it so that you get your protection. But what's even funnier though is I was also, since I'm playing Karn, I get to play the One Ring too. And then the best part is when I killed so many people by just turning the ring into a creature. It's indestructible 4/4, baby. Oh yeah, that's like almost like how Oko turned Black Lotus into a 3/3 and then killed someone. I would say that would be very representative of probably this year in Magic. If I turned the ring into a creature and beat you down with it.
And you know what happened because of that? We ended up with it getting banned. It was not just because of that, but that was one of the iconic images of Oko once that started going around of like, the Black Lotus beatdown. So I hate that you mentioned Karn, because if I had to pick one card to be banned, that's the one. My God, do I hate Karn.
How is that the one to be banned?
I
Of
absolutely
all the
hate
things?
Karn. Hate it. I absolutely hate it.
How is that the worst thing that's happening in Magic? It is so far from it.
I mean,
It just
the
has so
answer is
much
Grixis.
Consistency.
Grixis Death Shadow is the answer, right? It
Is
came
that the
back
answer?
from the dead. It can run Bowmasters. It can run a multitude of counter spells to like make you laugh, be laughably bad to play the One Ring, and it's aggressive enough to actually end the game. Like there's a world where you One Ring, get protection, untap, and then still die to Death Shadow because it's aggressive enough. And then if you really want, you can I guess grind with Death Shadow using the One Ring too. So and then it also plays. You can also play the red burn, right? You can play the stomp and the Skull Crack, the damage prevention clause prevents the One Ring from keeping protection.
I feel like
I think that's
Burn
generally
should
is
be
the-
good against One Ring, right? Like, I feel like on paper,
Is it?
Burn should be good against One Ring. I mean, you can cast all your stuff at instant speed. So worst case, they tap out 4 mana, gain protection. You just bolt them on their draw upkeep or whatever after they lose the protection.
But didn't Burn suck before this?
Yeah,
what's
I mean,
the
it's
reason,
not.
though? What's the reason? Like, if we can't beat like
Well,
it
if everyone's playing One Ring,
Solitudes?
yeah.
Like, what is keeping Burn down?
I mean, I think
Plethora of
Archons
reasons.
maybe. Archon's probably a big one. Like,
Oh.
that's kind of tough to beat. Omnath is also really tough for Burn to beat. Like, if you ramp into that, it's tricky. So there's some bad cards against it, but it does feel good against the One Ring.
But those decks play the One Ring, Seth.
Yeah, that's
What if instead
that's
of playing
also
the One
true.
Ring, they play Omnath on turn 4, then you lose.
Wait,
Yeah, then
didn't
you're in
Burn
trouble.
play the One Ring for like a league or something in 5?
There was someone who
Yeah.
5-0'd with One Ring and Burn. Yeah, I
See
think
that
every
happening.
archetype has had a 5-0 with One Ring at this point. So anyway, I think those are all of our big topics for today. Well, I was going to ask about the most misunderstood mechanic in Magic, but we'll get to that in the future because we're running a little long. So Richard, why don't you give us some fish mails?
All right. If you have questions, send them to @MTG Goldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air. Antonio 555-26710. With so many 2-creature combos being viable because of Collected Company, is Coco the new Splinter Twin in Modern? And should Splinter Twin be unbanned?
It's like Splinter Twin if you had to gamble on whether or not you were actually going to combo.
Yeah, I like my infinite combos to work 70% of the time. Those were the best infinite combos.
It's also awkward though, because like Coco decks have that requirement of at least 30 creatures to like have that good hit rate.
Yep.
So because of that, you're really not left with a lot of room to where you can like maybe sideboard or maybe have prepare yourself for like a different matchup.
Mhm.
And Splinter Twin's power was that it had the versatility of playing whatever game it wanted. Tempo, combo, even down to like control, right? Like it
Yeah,
could.
Aren't these all Coco strengths as well?
Coco
I
though
mean,
requires
Like you,
that
you
30...
play your one-off random tech creatures and you Coco into them. And you can
Yeah.
grind as well because you're Cocoing. So even if you don't hit the combo, you're hitting like 2 value creators and doing the thing. Like,
But
aren't
you're
they
also
actually pretty similar in
inconsistent.
those regards?
No. Like I at least I don't think so.
I mean, and Coco doesn't even really see that much play in Modern anymore. Like, it's really fallen off from where it's at before. I think it's seen a bit of an upswing with people trying to do, like, Rosy combos and, like, Scurry Oaks. Like, some of the combos from the Lord of the Rings set has brought it back a little bit. I can see the comparison to Splinter Twin, but I think the lack of consistency, and as Krim said, the deck building cost, I think, is higher. But,
Are we saying Splinter Twin is better than Coco?
Yes.
As a deck,
'Cause I
probably.
would
As
say
a
that
deck
if we
card.
unban Splinter Twin in Modern, Coco would still see more play. That Splinter Twin is boomer magic, and Coco is actually versatile enough because it's getting 2023 cards with the Coco, as opposed
Okay.
to Splinter Twinning like random garbage.
But
I know that people play that Coco, like Coco is played a lot on Historic. Like
Yeah.
that is like one of the most popular things between like
that's because it
all these
fits into
other
the
things.
life game deck,
I-
Krim.
yeah,
People
I-
gotta
I
get their
know.
Johnny's Pride made somehow.
I'm not joking you, like Arena people love their life gain so much so that I made a whole video of just an anti-life gain deck and I had more matches than it did exactly what I needed it to do. I just played Tainted Remedy for like as an enchantment.
just run it out there. I mean, I do think Twin could be unbanned though. Like I think we've all said that in the past when we've talked
Yeah.
about it. Like I'm definitely on board with Twin being unbanned in Modern.
Full agree there, but like I don't know. I don't know if it's like this if it's the modern Twin, right? Because or the current modern day Twin. Because if so, then like I don't know. I feel like there's better contenders, right? Because wouldn't Indomitable Creativity just be Twin?
Or Court of Calling, or Eldritch Evolution, or name a card that tutors out a combo piece. Is Demonic
but, like-
Tutor actually Splinter Twin?
Well, Court of Calling more.
So
like,
Coco is more resilient, right? The other combos are more combo-y, but Coco, if you don't get your combo, you can still win.
but
And
it's
I guess
pretty-
the answer is like in 2023, no, you can't win with 2/2s and 3/3s anymore, right? Like it doesn't work that way. So maybe that's
So-
why it's fallen off.
Indomitable Creativity would be better as as a twin thing, right? Because literally, you can target a treasure token. You can target whatever.
Yeah.
Although that also has a really high
Creativity
deck
is the
building
new twin, I
cost.
think.
Like you have to not play anything except your finishers or whatever as far as creatures. So there is
Sure.
interesting comparison.
Okay, but unban Splitter Twin.
Unban Twin.
I'll try it for one league and then go back to playing the One Ring.
And then reprint Jace, and then also go back to playing the One Ring because Jace is just budget One Ring.
All right, so thank you to the questions this week. If you have future questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 441 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So, Richard Krim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Guard Conduit for supporting the show. And we'll be back next week to talk about Commander Masters, spoilers, and whatever else goes on in the world of Magic. So, until then, have a great week, everyone. And this is the crew signing out.